Welcome to After the 80 Intrust Super Cup edition. I'm your host, Terry Pascoe. On today's show, we'll take a look at round 20 of the Intrust Super Cup. We'll also catch up with Townsville Blackhawks coach Kristian Woolf. And Rikki-Lee Arnold from the Courier Mail will bring us the latest news surrounding our great game. Now, if you'd like to follow us, follow the show, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search After the 80. After the 80 TV, I believe, is the handle for our Twitter account. Also, you can now find our video podcast on iTunes. So jump on your device, hit subscribe, and watch away. Now, joining me on the panel this week, Anthony Bomber-Breeze, mate. Big weekend of footy?
Yeah, no, it was a big weekend of football there. We seen some very close games, and we saw East put their foot down and show that they're not finished with. They want to make the top six, and there's still a lot of teams just on the border of the top six that have to keep winning. So, interesting games ahead.
Also joining the panel, John Devine from Calling All Sports Brisbane, mate. Come on to raise the standards of the show.
Big shoes to fill, I know, mate. But look, it's a great initiative that the After the 80 has here for the Intrust Super Cup. It gives the greatest exposure, and I think you're doing a great job, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Calling All Sports Brisbane. A lot of people might know, some people might not know. You live stream all the BRL, well, not all the BRL games, but BRL and Intrust Super Cup. Mate, how's that initiative been going?
Well, it started off with where clubs were actually looking for more exposure for their sponsors, and basically they couldn't get the sponsorship dollars. A name on the jersey just doesn't cut it anymore, and they want to get more exposure. And the day of video and live streaming rugby league games is now part and parcel of all the sports. And we just offer a service that could attract more sponsors for each club, whether it's the Intrust Super Cup or in Safe Hands Cup as well. So. That's where we go along, and other sports as well, but there's nothing better than rugby league, especially this time of year.
It is one of the great things about this, the fact that it's not only, you don't have to just watch it live, but you can watch it any time. So if you want to watch your North Devils on Devils TV or Burleigh, you can just jump online and watch it again.
That's right. I mean, the players can go back and look at their own games without actually, before their coach rips them into them on Tuesday night. So they can have a look at their games, taking family and friends. A lot of people time sensitive. On Sundays they might be able to watch it, and they can go back and watch it on Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's a great initiative, and we look forward to continuing that next year and promoting the game. I know Phoenix Media Hub do the same thing for the Ipswich Jets. It's all promoting the Intrust Super Cup, and I'm sure that's what Intrust Super want.
Now, talk about Intrust Super Cup. It is round 20's just gone. Give us your, in 20 words or less, your summary of the season so far.
It's been outstanding, and we talk about upsets, and I don't think we can say that anymore about the Intrust Super Cup, because week in, week out, we talk about East winning against North. Well, really, it would have been a close game. I think we're more, the upsets are how big the score lines might be rather than actually somebody beating an opposing side. So it's been fantastic. It's a tipster's nightmare, and it's just wonderful rugby league. It's not as structured as the NRL, so you have these games that can have fantastic tries and what was he thinking situations, and I think that's just marvellous. But this, obviously the ladder shows how great this competition is and how close it is. And look, maybe 3 sides are out of it, and with 4 rounds to go, that leaves 11 sides that can still make it outstanding.
It's great. It is great competition. But like I said, round 20 has just finished in the Intrust Super Cup. Now let's have a look at some of the results. Like you said, there were some really surprising results here. East Tigers getting up over the North Devils, and it was just quite incredible. The scoreline really doesn't do that much justice, to be fair. We'll talk shortly about Bomber with the Ipswich after the 80 Cup. Ipswich up against Redcliffe, another victory. Seagulls, John, you were there for the game. That was also another interesting one. PNG and obviously the Magpies, unfortunately, on Old Boys Day, and also celebrating Phil Dennis's 271st game. It was also like I can't think of the number off the top of my head, it was like the 500th game for the South Slogan Magpies or something like that.
I think it's 270. He broke Troy Lindsay's record from the Redcliffe Dolphins. So Philly D's been around for a long, long time. I think he's actually from South. I think he's played all these games there. And it was interesting to see some of the footage there with himself and Jim McLennan when they were younger, and they just look completely different, as we all do after about 15 years.
Now, also, the big upset I felt was the Falcons over the Pride. Riley Jacks coming back into the side. Melbourne Storm keeping with Jerome Hughes. But getting over the Pride in Hervey Bay is quite impressive. But the game that I liked the most was, like I said, North Devils over, East Tigers over North Devils at Bishop Park. 46-12. Now, this is a very unusual game because this is one of the games where I felt Norths were actually dominant in the middle of the field. They are without Todd Murphy, but there was just something lacking in this team because they were making so many metres. But you see here the combination of Billy Walters, Scott Drinkwater. Scott Drinkwater is an absolute freak of a player. It's incredible.
Yeah, Scott Drinkwater, obviously for the Melbourne Storm, he's ticking all the boxes, but how'd he go past who they got down there in Melbourne? He's making every post a winner, but for North, I think they struggled after their trip bomber to PNG the week before, and that's why they weren't at home.
Can I just stop here? Just watch this try. This is incredible. This is almost one of the tries of the year, outside of Scott Drinkwater's one afterwards. But watch this, just a kick on the fly, bang, recover his own kick, and flick it inside.
It's a cruel beast of football.
And it's a prop. I mean...
Well, the ball hit the ground twice there, so you could say it was terrible play, but it ended up in a try. And like you said, the rugby league ball's not a soccer ball that's just going to bounce and go straight. It goes left, it goes right, and bounce right for him.
Another great no-look pass there from Scott Drinkwater. But again, this game was 5 versus 7. I was expecting more of a one-pointer. Yeah,
well, just getting back to John's question before there, North's the week before at PNG. So obviously it does take a lot out of here. And they didn't just go to the main centre there. When you've got to go, they went up to Lay there, which obviously is a lot further up. So obviously the trip across there obviously does take a lot of it out. I know you've got 7 days to get back, but the body's a funny thing. And obviously a few of the North players were just obviously a bit down in form too. And East, well, they marked themselves as definitely a threat.
Now, this is also one where, I wonder if Billy Walters is going to be buying Scotty Drinkwater some beers afterwards with the amount of times he's set him up for some tries. But we'll see one off a kickoff very shortly where Scott Drinkwater was just, again, it was like going back to soccer. It was, soccer kicking and it's not a round ball. It's it's an oval-shaped ball. How did he keep it going? But this is another one. Like I said, this game just had everything. And it just showed East Tigers backing up as well. Another forward getting another prop. It was a day for tries for props. But like I said, I think it's this one off this kick. Have a look at this now. Not many people will realise that actually crosses the 10. It was a very strong win. But look at Scott Drinkwater just across here. Now, I'm going to call it now. Now, I know there's been some interest with Scott Drinkwater. Talk with Newcastle, but Melbourne Storm would be mad to let him go. He seems like on that day, I was there on the ground, he would be a perfect fit for once Billy Slater retires.
Well, that's right. I mean, but does Billy Slater do what, or not do what, say, Jonathan Thurston does? Call it end this year. Obviously, the Origin series as well, Bomber. But Scott Drinkwater, he's probably been the difference to when he fires, East fire.
Yeah, well, early on in the season he was firing, that's it, and they were firing, and obviously, like I said, once he goes well, the other seems to feed off him. He just seems to have that aura there. Like that kickoff there, the other forward just stood there and thought, it hasn't gone to 10, but Drinkwater had the smarts to think, boom, let's kick it through. And
it actually went about 12 metres, it went 2 metres over the line and blew back in. It was actually quite incredible to watch. Bomber, we'll talk about we'll briefly talk about the after the AD Cup, Redcliffe and Ipswich.
Yeah, well, obviously the Jets had another good win. They've beaten Redcliffe twice this year, which is obviously which is a big thing for the Jets there. Obviously their little blokes just got things going right from the start there, and they just ran Redcliffe around a little bit, and obviously Redcliffe just. Even though Redcliffe did go into half-time leading there, the little blokes were causing a lot of trouble.
Now, we'll get back to that very shortly because what we've got up here at the moment is the Wynnum game. So we'll quickly jump to you, John. This is one of the games that you liked. This was quite remarkable. This try from Sean Nona as well was more soccer skills on the weekend.
Yeah, Sean Nona, he came to the party with his kicking game against the Capras. Now, the interesting for the Capras, Dave Taylor, as we know, has come to join the Capras. He went off after the first 12 minutes. But the first half was an arm wrestle, but I like the way Patrick Templeton, with a minute to go, decided to use the field goal to take it out to 7 points to 10. Now, the second half of this fixture, obviously the Capras scored, but what happened after half-time was something that Wynnum Manly haven't done all year, and that was played structured footy, and the defence was in the face of the Capras. Time and time again, the Capras were forced to kick on the last tackle on their 40 or behind it, giving great field position to the Seagulls. And the Seagulls were just, they just bashed them out. Yes, the Capras only had a 3-man bench, but at the end of the day, that's not the fault of the Winnimantic Seagulls. They took it to the Capras, and they went on with it. Usually the Seagulls, they go to the sheds and they come out and something goes wrong and they come away with it. But this is a great win, and it would have been disastrous after a good win against South and Normanton not to come away with a win, especially as a pack chook pen, as you can see, against the Capras. And their season's still alive, but as we mentioned, the results of other sides maybe all done.
I was going to say, if you're the Wynnum skipper, I guess if you win the toss, you're always running right to left first and then finish with the chook pen.
Well, I was actually, even though the sun had gone down, as you know, Cougar IL goes east-west, so I was actually there for the toss, and they just said, well, we'll just run to the chook pen in the second half. You guys do what they, turn up without us, but we're running into the chook pen in the second half. But more so goes over and scores and or sets up that try. It was all too late, but it was, Wynnum Manly, they showed 2 weeks in a row. They won on the trot. They haven't done that before, and they've also won at home, which is a rarity at BMD Cougar Isle this year.
All right, now, Bomber, we'll go back to Ipswich. So we'll bring up the footage of the Redcliffe-Ipswich game after the AD Cup. Mate, there was some really good parts to this game for Redcliffe, but there was also some... Ipswich played a little bit differently. They were very strong in defence. They were able to hold out. Cameron Cullen was also a player that was very aggressive. If you listen to the coverage, Scotty Sattler was saying that a lot, like he was attacking the line, but they were able to hold him out. Yeah,
well, obviously Nat Neal, who's been one of their best all year, he got the players player in this game there. I think he led the tackle count there. And obviously that was a great pass by Ben White to Marmon Barber there. That was his first try of the day. He scores try a little bit later on in the game, which brought the scores back. But it was basically the defence, like you said. Redcliffe went into the half-time leading 14-6, and the Jets just kept them scoreless in the second half.
Was that the world's best dummy?
Oh.
I think he just walked straight on through. They all thought he was gone. But this was also another good try from Sagan. It's what we're talking about with Cameron Cullen being so aggressive, attacking the line and running onto the ball, where a lot of halves don't do that.
Yeah, that's right there. The Jets, they just seem to play a different style of game when they played Redcliffe. I was there when they played the first game for against them there. This
is a no try, but geez, shows the athleticism of Jonas Pearson, because when you watch it, it's just, look at that.
Yeah.
That is so close.
You just got to give it to him for athleticism. Come on.
Millimetre perfect, but obviously the win keeps the Jets season alive there. Obviously their for and against is a bad thing. And this is Marmon Barber. He now goes to equal with the Duck. Donald Malone now is the greatest try scorer for the Jets.
Now this is another good field goal for Sam Kaslik. I wonder if he got some tips off his sister, who plays for the Australian Rugby Union side. But that's not his best. I don't think that's his best field goal. The best one I've actually seen from Sam Kaslik was Sunshine Coast, up at Sunshine Coast Stadium. He was about 45 metres out, and he was about 20 metres in from centre. It was quite incredible. So he's got a lot of talent.
But obviously they set up for that there. The ball went to Wes Conlon. He normally takes a lot of field goals. They come up quick there. And even Sam Kaslik, he was under pressure too. And
I'll tell you,
rugby union background, snapped it.
I was going to say I'd be keeping old Sam Kaslik on the bench just for
the
those
last
moments.
10 minutes. It was a tight game. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't want to just have 10 minutes at the end.
It wasn't the only field goal in round 20 of the Intrust Super Cup either. Obviously, the Falcons got over with their field goal, and Patrick Templeton, as we mentioned before, with the field goal. But the funny stat also, Bomber, is I spoke to Jets CEO Jono, and at that particular time, in this round 16, more penalty kicks had been taken in the whole of this season compared to the entirety of last season, and that was following the Jets' win over Norse, where they took 2 penalty kicks. It's sort of, you take the points when you can, don't you?
That's what they were saying with the PNG as well. They were 4-10 down to Burleigh at half time, and they took a penalty kick to make it 6-10.
Well, the Jets have been one of the teams this year that have taken a lot of penalties. They'll be down by 10 points. They'll take a penalty to bring it back to 8. I know some people think, well,
but that's not the Jets of
there, but
old,
that's
though,
not well, that's it. They'll do that in the first half now, so get points on the board.
Now, all that footage you saw was courtesy of the QRL media. If you'd like to see all the highlights and interviews from the weekend, please head to qrl.com.au. Now, let's have a look at the competition later, because I know we're going to be in-depth discussion about this, because there has been some changes. Townsville finally have gone clear leaders. I know there's been touch and go in the middle of the season, but finally they break away from Redcliffe. But I guess, Bomber, have you seen it?
Yeah, well, I tipped the Blackhawks at the start of the year, and And you only have to be on the top of the ladder towards the end of the year. It doesn't matter whether you're in May. We have May premiers and June premiers and that, but you don't get anything for it. So you want to be there. And obviously the Blackhawks are showing the form that's obviously got them there. The one I'm a little bit worried about is the Burleigh Bears. I think they're just a little bit down on form there, and a couple more losses could push them down a bit further.
I think the key is, in talking with Craig Ingebrigtsen last week off air, he said the key to making the finals is you got to get 28 points. Normally it's 30, but for the Intrust Super Cup this year it's 28. So you'd say that Townsville and Redcliffe are certainties for finals, but the four under it are pretty much still on a knife edge.
It all depends on what they've got coming up against. Obviously, Kristian Woolf mentioned that they've got North, they've got Winner Manly as well. So, but the for and against is certainly something that's going to come into calculations. For Burleigh Bears, they're missing Blake Leary. Jamal Fogarty was out for a little while as well. So it was exactly what happened last year. It wasn't so much of a hangover for Burleigh, but it was what happened with the injuries that cruelled their season last year. They didn't have any at the start of the year, and all of a sudden Blake Leary goes, and that's so. I think Burleigh will make it. The Pride will, as Rikki-Lee mentioned in talking to her, that the Pride, they're a little bit shaky, and her Smokies East and the Falcons are coming up. But for and against will certainly come into it. That's why I think probably sides a little bit further down. And you've got 1 point games isn't helping for and against.
No. Well, that's the reason why Townsville broke away originally with that big 62-12 victory over Tweed Heads. Now, most notably, they haven't looked at 5 and 6. They're on 22 points, and you have a look then 7, 8, 22. Mathematically, I would say, yes, South Logan, Ipswich and Tweed are still in contention. They do have to win every game to get that 28, the golden number of 28 points. But I sort of worry. I was talking on Phoenix Radio the other day about Tweed Heads, and if they do make the finals, I just wonder about those rules around NRL players coming back, if that's going to be impacted, because we know they've been hit heavy with injury. Is that going to make a difference come finals time, where they might say, we've played Bryce Cartwright the last 4 weeks, but no, he's played too many NRL games, so you can't have him.
Regardless of what the availability, if Tweed Heads get into the top 6, that's a monumental feat for the Tweed Heads Seagulls from where they were last year. They've changed the CEO, but if they get in the top 6, that's a win for them.
For the first time in many weeks, the Intrust Super Cup has an outright competition leader. The Blackhawks upsetting the party at Davies Park on Sunday with a tough victory. The Blackhawks coach Kristian Woolf joins the show now. Mate, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Mate, tough and gritty win on Sunday against South Logan. What can you take out of the game?
I think we take a lot out of that game, actually. And at this time of the year, it's probably exactly what we wanted. We knew it was going to be a big day, an emotional day, and it certainly was. And there was plenty of feeling and plenty of energy in the south side. It was really good for our guys to have to confront that firstly and figure out a way to try and win. And I thought we did a really good job. And as I said, we'll certainly take a lot out of it going forward.
Kristian, there's 4 rounds of rugby league to go. There's a good chance you'll finish in the top 1 or 2. And that gives you home final, but it also means there's a lot of breaks in football in the back end of the season. So a tough hit out against South like that is something you're probably looking for in the coming month as well. Obviously, you'd like to have the wins as well, but also try and get that hard footy under your belt before you come into finals.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at our draw, I think it's perfect for what we want at this time of the year. It's a tough couple of weeks for us. Obviously, it started with South. We've got North this weekend at North, which is going to be a very tough game again. And they're obviously desperate and emotionally be right up, similar to South on the weekend. Then we play Redcliffe at home, Burleigh away, and Wynnum away. So it's a really good, tough sort of finish for us. And I think that's exactly what you want at this time of the year. You want to be playing good footy. You want to be knowing that you've had to have some really tough wins and figure out ways to win those tough games. And it's also in our hands what we do with the rest of the year as well and where we finish. We play teams that are around abouts, and if we're good enough, then we'll be sitting in a good position, and if we're not, then we won't be.
Now let's talk about your fullback, Zach Santos. His footwork was certainly on display on Sunday. What's he bring to your side this year?
Yeah, he was terrific on the weekend, and Zach's a guy that he's actually a local junior here at the club. He played at Townsville Brothers since he was 11 years old, and is a good example of why the Blackhawks are here and the pathway that we want to provide. Now, he obviously played for us in 2015, was our top try scorer, and went away for a couple of years to Canberra and the Warriors and tried his hand at the NRL, and he's come back, and he's slowly building and getting better and better every week, and he's really helped our team in a number of ways. He's a terrific defensive fullback. He organises your line really well, and he commits his own body really well in the line. He's got very good footwork, and he's very powerful for a little man, and he's also got a good turn of speed. So whenever he does get the ball, he's a real threat. And the thing that impressed me the most against South was just the number of big defensive plays that he came up with, and whether it was diving on a really well placed. Obviously, South have a couple of really handy halves, and they tested us a number of times with some kicks, and Zach just kept coming up with plays that, I guess, dissolved the situation and saved us a little bit, and then he came up with a couple of really big attacking plays as well. So he's been a terrific inclusion for us, and being a local bloke, he really buys into what we want to do as well. So I can't speak highly enough of him.
Kristian, first of all, I want to thank you for coaching Tonga last year and knocking New Zealand out of the World Cup with your coaching. So you've been coaching pretty much full on for the last 2 years. So now you're coming up against North in the first round. I think you pretty much put the sword to them. Then there was a few rounds there where the Townsville Blackhawks went missing. You've been touted as the club since you came in the competition as the heavyweights. You got to the grand final against the Intrust Jets, a game you were supposed to win because of the form you had. Is that still playing on your aspirations as a coach to try and just get that Townsville Blackhawks into the final and go one better?
Oh, look, I think every coach in this competition wants to get into the grand final and wants to win it. That's what we're all here for, and we're certainly the same. There's no doubt there. And we've obviously we want to be one of the clubs that are seen as one of the benchmarks of the competition, and we started that way in 2015, and with those aspirations, and I think the pressure of being considered a heavyweight is something that comes with the territory if you do want to be at the top every year. So it's something that we're quite comfortable with. We obviously have a lot of confidence in the players and the roster that we do put together. We also have a lot of confidence in the program that we run up here, and the hard work that we put into the program to make sure that our players are playing at the best of their ability. And we're not a club, like every club in this competition has different advantages. There's a lot of clubs that rely really heavily on NRL clubs, and some clubs get 8, 9, even more at different times players back from NRL affiliates, and that can be a real advantage for you. And we're not one of those clubs. We tend to rely on our own players a little bit more, and that can sometimes be an advantage for us as well in terms of the amount of work that we can put into our blokes as a team. So, as I said, every team's got their own advantages, and we certainly work hard for everything we get.
All right. Well, before we let you go, Kristian, thank you very much for your time, but we can't go past going back a couple of weeks ago, you're pasting your brother. Is that going to be something that you're going to be gloating around Christmas time?
What was that, against my brother?
Yeah, was it 62-12? Is that something you just got to bring up every Christmas party? 62-12.
No, definitely not. My brother's. I'm very close with my brother, and he's a very good coach in his own right. And I think we got them on a pretty good day there. They're a little bit undermanned. Even though it's a neutral round, going to the country probably suits us a little bit more than it suits folks from the Gold Coast, and we certainly handled the conditions a little bit better. It was nice and warm on the day, which always suits us too. So I felt a little bit sorry for him that day, but one thing I know is that if you have a look at their result the next week, he managed to squeeze a win out of them the next week, which is not an easy thing to do when your confidence gets knocked around in a big score like that. So he'll certainly continue to improve Tweed, and I think over the next 12 months to 2 years, if he sticks with them, you'll see them as a lot more of a force in the competition on a more consistent basis.
Now, just quickly, just as you were saying that, have you got some inside knowledge? I know Tweed are trying to sign Ben, so are you tipping us off that maybe he is going to stick with Tweed?
Oh, look, I hope he does. What did you say? You'd heard someone else was trying to sign him?
Yeah, well, they're saying I just heard Twitter been trying their hardest to re-sign him, so I thought you might have been giving us some inside knowledge.
Okay. Yeah. Look, well, he hasn't told me any different. I don't talk to him every week or anything like that. We're obviously opposition coaches, so you don't want to give him too much. But no, I haven't heard that he's going to go anywhere else. I just assume, he's pretty comfortable there on the Gold Coast and been there for a while. So, I just assumed that he'd most likely be staying there.
All right, Kristian. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time again, and good luck against North this weekend and for the rest of the season, mate.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Join us live this Saturday for the Intrust Super Cup clash between the Ipswich Jets and the Sunshine Coast Falcons. Our live stream telecast will commence just before 3 p.m. when our commentators preview the battle that will be played out at North Ipswich Reserve. The Jets take on the Falcons live with kickoff at 3 p.m. this Saturday. Watch on facebook.com/Phoenix Media Hub and listen live on phoenixradio.com.au, Brisbane Youth Radio 1197 AM and DAB+. Proudly brought to you by the Queensland Times.
Bringing us all the latest news in the Intrust Super Cup, Rikki-Lee Arnold from the Courier Mail joins us now. Now, Rikki-Lee, 2 weeks ago when we were chatting, you scored the perfect round in the tipping. How have you gone lately?
I think I got a 6 this week. I think the only one I got wrong was Ipswich and Ipswich over Redcliffe. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people got that one wrong.
Yeah, well, that's right. Don't know many people that would have tipped Ipswich. So we had some few upsets over the weekend. What was the game that took you by surprise?
Oh, look, definitely the Ipswich one. They are still in contention for the finals. Probably a bit more of a long shot compared to some other teams, but to be able to beat Redcliffe the way they did, really grind out that win and take it at the last minute, it was really good to see, and it was definitely the upset of the round, but I was also quite surprised by East's victory over North. Not the fact that East won, but by how much. The points difference in that game was quite surprising. I thought it would be a close battle. North were in the top 6 before that game. Now they're out. East are in. So there's been a bit of a ladder shake-up, which I really like to see as well, a couple of weeks out from the finals.
With the top 6 the way it's going at the moment, Rikki-Lee, and all points are level, and there's so many sides either side of the 6. For and against comes into it as well. Do you see a Winner-Manly now out of that? So we're down to a shortened ladder, so to speak, that can qualify for finals?
Yeah, I do think Win and Manly are out. And in some aspects, I think Tweed Heads probably are out as well. I know they're still in it in terms of the points, but their for and against is just, it's the worst that's in that whole group. And I just think they'll really struggle to overcome the teams that are above them. South Logan and North, they're not going to be happy at all that they fell out of that top 6, and they'll be fighting to get back in there. But East and Sunshine Coast, PNG, those types of teams, they're not going to give up their fight either. So I have personally ruled out Tweed Heads. You never know what can happen. There's always a good surprise. But I think Tweed Heads and Wynnum have definitely fallen out of that kind of range at the moment.
Now, can I get your thoughts on Jonas Pearson? We almost saw him pull off a spectacular try at Dolphin Stadium. Now, if the idea that Corey Oates could be leaving the Broncos, does this open the door for Pearson?
Oh, it's an interesting question because that whole back line at the Broncos, there's a few unknowns about what's going to happen. Next year Jack Bird will be back from injury. Tony Staggs is another one that, while he often more plays centre, I think they'll want to find somewhere for him in that team. It's quite obvious now that he's moved ahead of Tom Opachik in the pecking order at the Broncos. So I don't know about poor Jonas. I don't know if he's missed his opportunity with so many other players coming through the ranks, because I guess if they wanted to put Jack Bird or Tony Staggs at centre, Jordan Carter's an obvious one to move to the wing, as he has done to allow Darius Boyd to come into the side. So there is a lot of unknown about that back line, and there's also been suggestions that Kahu might not be there next year as well. So I don't know about Jonas. He's definitely doing everything he can to push for a first grade spot, but Brisbane just have a lot of talent going on in the moment in that back line.
The Intrust Super Cup obviously is a launching pad for a lot of the Melbourne Storm. Obviously, is one of those as well. For the Broncos, do they look outside? Do they look at players that are off the scope, or a little bit cheaper as well, to try and come back into contention for the Broncos? Jonas Pearson, I'm not sure the relationship between the Broncos and Redcliffe are all that well. We know what can happen there. But anybody else that might be a smoky in that back line?
Probably not at the moment, just because of Katoni Staggs. I mean, he is someone who has come through the Intrust Super Cup, and I just think the way he's playing, he's not starting. He can't start at the moment because of the NRL rules, but I think in the Broncos' eyes, he is the future. They want to find a place for him, and I think at the moment, he's definitely keeping Tom Opachik out of that side, and I think if Tom Opachik and Jonas Pearson are struggling to make it, there's not a lot of other Brisbane affiliates, I think, that are going to be able to push through at the moment.
Now, Rikki-Lee, we talked about the new ladder, or the new 5 and 6. If we wind our minds back a few months ago, or at least a month ago, you were somewhat of a psychic. You actually predicted this. Is that, is there any other smokies that you think could, with 4 rounds to go, that could make an impact?
I think PNG, PNG are known for being fighters. They're known for not giving up and putting in till the very last minute, or in this case, the very last game of the season. So I think they'll definitely push. But I'm still sticking with my current tip. I think the top 6 might be set in terms of who is there. I don't know how they're going to finish, though, in terms of position. I don't think, I think Pride have a lot of work to do without Jake Clifford. They'll get him back for the finals, you'd imagine, but at the moment they're not going to have him for the end of the season. So they've got to find out how to win without him. They did do it last week and in a great win against Ipswich, but then they obviously couldn't get the win this week against Sunshine Coast. So I think there's still room to move within the top 6, but if I had to make a prediction, I think the top 6 is set. What about you guys?
I think that's pretty much right. I think after the way East Tigers are my smokies for the competition. After the way Scott Drinkwater play, he's an absolute freak. I guess I don't see much else, too much movement. I hope the Falcons stay in there. But I wonder if some of these rules are going to come into play about who can actually play in the finals, with Riley Jacks playing a fair bit of time with Melbourne Storm. Will he still be eligible for Queensland Cup finals? I think Brodie Croft will be fine because he's played enough cup, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But anyway, Rikki-Lee, what else could we see from you in the Courier Mail this week?
I'm off to Broncos training at the moment, so you'll see the latest from Broncos training and Wayne Bennett in tomorrow's paper. And we're going to have a look at maybe some of the Intrust Super Cup players who are on the radar of NRL teams this year. So keep an eye out for that in tomorrow's Courier Mail.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Rikki-Lee.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Rikki-Lee Arnold there from the Courier Mail. Like I said, if you want to check out all her work, just grab your latest edition of the Courier Mail from the news agencies or jump online. You can subscribe. Now let's take a look at this weekend's games. Round 21 is about to kick off. Some really interesting clash here, guys. I'm really going to stick with the game that's on Saturday, the Jets up against the Falcons. They'll be live streamed on Phoenix Media Hub, so you can jump on Facebook and watch that, or also on Phoenix Radio. John, what's your game that you like?
East Tigers are up against the Tweedhead Seagulls. We talked about the Seagulls. Their chance of making the 6 all hinges on that, but they're for and against this and real great. And the East Tigers, are they contenders or pretenders? They need to put away sides like Tweed or lower on the ladder. Scott Drinkwater, like I said, if he turns up, look, the East, they're a smoky. I spoke to Adrian Vowles, obviously Rikki-Lee Arnold, mentioning East a chance. I think the Tigers are special in this one, but yeah, they got to get their for and against better, and it should be a good game at Suzuki.
Isn't that really interesting? Where I think about halfway through the season, we were talking and we're like, oh, is Scott Sipple going to be staying with the East Tigers? They've had a lot of losses, and now it looks like we're tipping him to be premiers.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is they had these great players, they had Link Port and all that, and they weren't getting the wins that they needed, and all of a sudden it's starting to gel, and maybe they're just coming around the way Scott Sipple coaches, and it's starting to work.
All right, Bomber, what's the game that's piqued your interest?
I like the game at Davies Park. South and PNG, it's an important game for both teams. both teams are sitting just outside. They're equal on points. This could be the end of one of them. If South don't win, it could be the end of them. PNG. I like PNG. I think they're starting to hit their straps at the right times of the season. There. I've always been a South man. I'd like to see South win and hopefully Phil Dennis go into the final series. But we're going to have to wait and see. I think one of these season's over.
And you thought you got a big crowd last week. I mean, PNG bring their own crowd to any game, not just at South. So that'll be interesting. And also, North will get really tested against the Blackhawks. I really don't see North coming out of this game with a win, but my tips are horrible, so don't listen to me. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to Rikki-Lee Arnold and Kristian Woolf from the Blackhawks. Big thank you to you both, Bomber and John, for coming on the show.
Good to be here.
Yep.
Now, if you'd like to keep up to date with the show, make sure you head to our social media sites, After the 80 on Facebook and our Twitter handle, After the 80 TV. Also, you can now subscribe to our video podcast on iTunes. I'm Terry Pascoe. We'll see you next week.